Negative emotions are things like sadness, anger, frustration, fear, guilt, and shame. And they can be just as effective to use in a speech. However, these are things that our audience doesn't want to feel. So we're going to use them differently than we would use our positive emotions. And what we're going to try to do when we're using negative emotions is show how our thesis helps the audience avoid or reduce the impacts of those negative emotions. So what we'll do is we'll introduce the negative emotion to create that feeling of discomfort, and then we'll demonstrate how adopting our idea minimizes or eliminates the negative impacts that those emotions have on our audience. We've all been exposed to these types of negative emotional appeals in things like the commercials for animal welfare that show animals suffering or abused animals. Obviously, those are emotional appeals based on shame and guilt. By seeing the suffering, we feel a little bit of shame and guilt over maybe not doing anything. And the idea is that if we support the groups that are using these advertisements, then we can eliminate those feelings of shame or guilt and feel good about helping these animals. Another example relating to my hypothetical speech about graduate school would be to say something like this. Imagine yourself in the position of the graduates who live below the poverty line because they can't get a job. The negative emotion of fear, feeling powerless against the system and being out of work, having no money, living below the poverty line, all that negative emotion is something that my audience is not likely going to want to feel. So I would finish that up with, graduate school allows you to wait for a better economy. That's the way of avoiding those negative emotions that might come with being below the poverty line after you graduate. So again, what we're trying to do with negative emotions is to introduce them, but once we've introduced them, we say how our thesis, our idea, allows the audience to avoid feeling those negative emotions.